to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson. And, we've talked a lot, not only on this program, but during our news segments as well, about Christian persecution. It's real, and it's happening, and it's all over the world. And I am really honored to have with us today a new guest. Been looking forward to talking to Reverend Dr. William Devlin. He is a Vietnam War veteran, Purple Heart recipient, co-pastor of the Infinity Bible Church there in South Bronx. He leads Redeem, a global humanitarian ministry serving persecuted Christians in some of the world's most dangerous regions. Pastor Devlin holds advanced degrees in theology and has received national recognition, including the President's Volunteer Service Award, for his decades of work supporting persecuted communities worldwide. He does have a website, infinitybiblechurch.com, and there's a picture of that landing page, infinitybiblechurch.com. Pastor Devlin, good to see you, friend. How are you?
Hey, Perry, God bless you. Great to be with you, and thanks for all you're doing out there in snowy Oregon. God bless. Great to be with you.
Thank you, thank you. Thanks for your time. Boy, so much to talk about.
Yeah, there is.
Give me a 30,000-foot view of Christian persecution worldwide. What's going on?
It's ugly, it's macabre, it's demonic, it's satanic, and there is, particularly in Nigeria and many other countries that are a Muslim majority, there is at 30,000 feet, there is the Islamization of these nations like Nigeria. And look at Afghanistan, look at Pakistan. So they wiped out the Jewish folks in their country like Iran or Iraq, Kurdistan, and now they're coming after the other people of the book, the people who love Jesus Christ. So it's really, I lead a very sad ministry. I'm small potatoes. It's just me, and I'm a volunteer with widowsandorphans.info, and with Redeem, I have a volunteer chief of staff, and then I have 21 national leaders, and I only go where Christians are being murdered and killed. I was pastoring a big church in Manhattan, New York City, 13 years ago, and God used 3 words, Perry: God, gospel, good news. And I said, God, what are you trying to tell me? And God said, take the first 2 letters of each of those words, and that's what I want you to do. G-O, G-O, G-O. And I said, Lord, where do you want me to go? And he said, go to the persecuted church, go to the suffering church, go to the widow, the orphan, the neglected, the forgotten, the broken. And I looked around, Perry, this is 2012, and all these big organizations that we're talking about, the persecuted church, unfortunately, not one of them ever thought, let's send a pastor from the West, America, Canada, Northern, Europe, and let's send a pastor over there to weep with those who weep, as Ecclesiastes says. Let's go, let's send somebody over there who will be with them, the ministry of presence, much like Jesus did for us, leaving heaven to come to earth. And I looked around, and none of those big organizations ever thought about sending a pastor. So my portfolio, Perry, is I'm a full-time pastor to the persecuted church in Africa, Middle East, and Central Asia. So I go to Nigeria, Egypt, Northern Sudan. I go to Gaza, Syria, Jordan, Turkey, Iran, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Iraq, Kurdistan, and the list goes on, 21 countries that God has called me to. So that's the 30,000-foot view. And I am hoping that as a result of your program today, that others will join with me. And here's the caveat: I'll pay for their flight to come to Nigeria. So if there's somebody out there that wants to go from JFK to Abuja, and then we'll go and we'll weep with those widows that have seen their children beheaded by the Islamist Muslims in northern Nigeria, that have seen their husbands, their entire family wiped out. Here's a little boy that they were getting ready to, I don't know if you can see that, but there's a little boy that they were getting ready to behead, and they sliced the back of his neck open, as you can see that scar. Wow. So I run a very sad ministry, and I am just hoping that as a result of now with the president of the United States, with other people coming forward and saying, look at this, 100,000 Christians over the last 10 years in Nigeria have been murdered. So this year there will be 8,000 by the time we hit the end of December, Perry, 2025. If you do the math, if you divide 365 into 8,000, you get 22 Christians a day, children, women, moms, dads, little boys, little girls that are getting beheaded, hacked to death with machetes because the Muslims in northern Nigeria, whether they're Fulani herdsmen or Boko Haram or Islamic State West Africa province, you know what they say when they come into a village or a city? They say we're not going to waste our bullets on the infidels, meaning Perry, Pastor Devlin. We're just going to hack you to death with machetes. So imagine if that was occurring in America, that 22 Christians were being murdered every day. What would we do? Would the church stand up? And unfortunately, it took Bill Maher from HBO, and it took a rapper by the name of Nicki Minaj to really bring this to the forefront. So that's the 30,000 view, Perry.
Wow. Okay, so let's drill down a little bit on this.
Sure.
Nigeria's in the news. The president's now paying attention over there. We're looking at ways to getting involved. How do you think that's going to go? Does that really have some legs to it? Could it happen?
Well, it could go a lot of different ways. And right now it's going sideways because now the terrorists, which are 100% Muslim, by the way, they want to Islamicize Nigeria. It's been going on, actually. Most people don't know it's been going on since 1801. And that's when they established the caliphate in Nigeria because the trade route was going from Morocco on the west all the way over to Somalia on the east. And the trade route ran through, it wasn't called Nigeria then, but it was a tribe of Fulanis. So 1801, they've been carrying out making Nigeria ever since the Brits left after Nigeria became an independent nation. And so there's this grinding juggernaut that has gone through. So now that the president of the United States has said, well, we're going to do something. We may send in troops. Well, now the massacres are getting more frequent because they're basically saying, the Muslims in Nigeria saying, oh, yeah, Trump, you're going to do that? Well, look at what we're going to do. And unfortunately, at every level of the Nigerian government, they're in collusion with the Muslim terrorists. And I'm talking at the highest level, President Tinubu and his predecessor, President Muhammad Buhari. And the judiciary is Islamist. The legislature is Islamist. And even the federal army of Nigeria is Islamist. I was in a village, Perry, in April of this year. I've been to Nigeria a total of 19 times over the last 4 years, and 4 times just this year, consoling, comforting the remaining victims who have seen their family hacked to death with machetes. And I go to these villages, and the village I went to a week after the Palm Sunday 2025 attack occurred, 2 days before that attack occurred from the Fulani Muslim herdsmen, the federal Nigerian army came into Zika village, which is up in northern Nigeria in Plateau State, that location. The federal army went in and they were looking for any weapons that that they could confiscate from the Christians. And lo and behold, 48 hours later, the Fulani herdsmen came in and murdered by machete 37 adults and 17 little children. I talked to a woman who had her hand cut off because she was defending her little 10-month-old daughter, Mary. And the Muslims came in midnight, Palm Sunday this year in April 2025, and they cut off the ears of this little 10-month-old girl that her mother was holding, and then they slit the throat of this little 10-month-old baby. So, uh, unfortunately, I would hope that America would send military troops in. I don't think it's going to happen, Perry. And so the killings are going to continue, unfortunately, unabated. So that's why I'm encouraging people to come with me and get a firsthand uh, look at your persecuted brothers and sisters and weep with them, console them, and practice the ministry of presence. I say ministry of presence, MOP. I'm just a mop for Jesus, and I go there to clean up messes.
Wow, wow. You attended the House Foreign Relations Committee hearing on Nigeria. You had sat there and listened to some of these testimonies. If the testimonies were as passionate as you just expressed and graphic as you just expressed, you would think that that would move the committee to action. What was your response?
Yeah, it's my response is probably not something your listeners and viewers, Perry, want to hear. We had this same hearing in March of 2025. I submitted written testimony at that hearing before the African subcommittee. And out of that hearing, nothing was done. And unfortunately, this committee of our US Congress, again, last week, last Thursday, November 20th, 2025, they brought in by Zoom, by video, a Catholic bishop from Benue State, which is in eastern Nigeria, who has already had his life threatened. And we're like, why would you? I know that the bishop probably said, yeah, I'll come on again. But when he testified last March, he went from here and then testified at Parliament in the United Kingdom. He got back to Nigeria, and now he has a target on his back. He's in the crosshairs, and these Muslim terrorists are going to kill him. Why not have? We actually had a young woman who was captured and then she escaped. She was kidnapped by Boko Haram. She's now living in the United States. She actually called my Nigerian team here in America and she said, I want to testify. And for whatever reason, the Foreign Relations Committee didn't want her. They had this poor bishop who has a death sentence, a fatwa in Arabic on his life. And then they had three people out of the four that have never been to Nigeria.
Oh,
So imagine that. How can you say that you know what's going on when three of the testifiers have never had their feet in northern Nigeria? And here's the other sad part. So, anyway, let me just answer your question. So, we're waiting for President Trump to issue, and also Secretary of State Marco Rubio, to issue country of particular concern. They call it CPC on Nigeria. But Perry, we waited for 4 years during the Biden administration when President Biden and Secretary of State Anthony Blinken removed that designation. And now we've been waiting for 11 months. It's been on Marco Rubio's desk. I'm not being critical, I'm just talking in reality. Why, with all the killings unabated in Nigeria, did Secretary of State and President Trump wait 11 months before they acted on it? And it took a secular, agnostic, atheist HBO talk show host, Bill Maher, and he had a show and he said, I can't believe that nobody is talking about 100,000 Christians being murdered in Nigeria over the last 10 years. And then a female rapper who has filthy lyrics in her songs, she comes forward and advocates for Christians in Nigeria. And I always say, where's everybody else? I mean, I'm like the Paul Revere town crier, and there's other organizations that, what are we doing? What are we doing? And I actually have, when I speak in a church, Perry, and this is discouraging, I have evangelical pastors that will not allow me to show pictures. And I'm not talking graphic, but the scars, like a woman that had her right hand chopped off by a machete. Oh, I don't want to offend my congregation, Pastor Devlin. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Has anybody in your congregation ever seen The Terminator with Arnold Schwarzenegger? Have they ever seen John Wick on TV where there's massive killings? And yet you're not going to show the reality of what's going on in Nigeria. So I'm very saddened by pastors not speaking up. There's a few, Perry, but the whole church should be speaking out about the persecution of Christians, not only in Nigeria. Think about this, there's 57 Muslim nations now that are Muslim majority stretching from Morocco on the west all the way over to Indonesia on the east. 57 nations where Christians, if they're not being murdered, they're being oppressed and suppressed. And what is the Western church in America, Canada, and Europe? What are we doing about it? And frankly, we're not doing much.
All right, let me take a quick break here. Let me say to our viewers and listeners, check out Pastor Devlin's website, infinitybiblechurch.com. There's a picture of the landing page. You can learn more about this. And amazing. We're amazing. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back. Such an honor to have back with us today, or at least with us for the first time, and I look forward to having him back many times. Reverend Dr. William Devlin's with us, and he's an amazing guy and deals with the persecuted church. He does have a website, infinitybiblechurch.com, and again, there's a picture of the page. We're talking about the atrocities in Nigeria. I do want to get to China, Pastor, but let me ask you one quick question about this. Nigeria is coming to light. More and more people are seeing what you're talking about here. We have secularists who are now calling attention to it, which is great. But I am my brain's a little on tilt. Why so many human beings globally turn a blind eye to such evil?
Yeah, well, that's the question of the hour, isn't it, Perry? Why do so many people? Well, because it's hard. I got to tell you, I don't know if you can see this, but here I am at let me get it in view here. Here I am
Go up a little
in
bit. Go up a little bit. To your left. There you go. Okay.
There I am at praying at a mass grave in northern Nigeria. It's, people generally like to be happy, right? Sadness comes into our life. And we normally don't expect it, but to actually go there and weep with those who are weeping. And, our Lord Jesus, everybody that's hearing us today, viewing us today, Jesus said, when I was in prison, when I was hungry, when I needed clothing, as you did it unto the least of these, you did it unto me. But, we in America, and I have my own personal story. I was very happy pastoring a big church in Manhattan, New York City. It had tripled in size over the 5 years of my leadership. No thanks to me, thanks be to God. And we had 45 ministries. The church was growing. The people loved me, and I loved them. And then God told me, Perry, to drop my nets, which is exactly what Jesus told the disciples in the first century. He said, drop your nets, come follow me. Well, contextualization, that means rearrange your life. So I went home and went to my wife, Nancy, and I said, God has called me to the persecuted church. I'm going to drop my nets. We're going to drop our nets. I'm going to rearrange my life. I'm going to start 2 organizations, Redeem and widowsandorphans.info. That's a great website your viewers can go to, widows and orphans, widowsandorphans.info, or livereckless.info. That's another great site. Most people don't want to go to that. And so Nancy, my wife of 45 years now, 34 years at that time, we turned our lives upside down in order to go to the persecuted church. I gave up salary. I gave up benefits. I started a ministry by faith. So if I can do it, and I'm a nobody pastor, I don't have a TV show or radio show. I don't have a podcast. I haven't written a book. I'm not in God's who's who. I'm in God's who's he. And I didn't graduate from seminary, magna cum laude or summa cum laude. I graduated, thank you, Laude. But so if I'm able to rearrange my life, Perry, to go and minister to the persecuted church, why aren't others doing that? That was the great missionary call of William Carey, Adoniram Judson, Hudson Taylor, Elizabeth and Jim Elliot, Gladys Aylward, of 200 years ago, 100 years ago. Those missionaries, those Christian workers gave up everything
Yeah.
to go and share Jesus to the far flung places of the world. And, many of them died. They were murdered, like in Japan, like in China, or they died of disease. But they went there with a passion to turn the world upside down for Jesus Christ. And that's what I'm about.
Good.
And so when God called me out of my comfort zones, that's what I'm doing. I'm calling people to drop their nets, rearrange your life, and let's go weep with the persecuted Nigerian Christians. Let's go to PRC, People's Republic of China, where you can go and weep with those who are being persecuted. They just in People's Republic of China, they lock up pastors every day. Where's the outcry on that, Perry?
Well, that's why I wanted to go quickly before I run out of time. So, what's going on in China? How bad is the persecution?
Oh, it's been going on ever since 1928 when Mao Zedong started his rebellion, and it continues to this day. So we're looking at over 100 years of persecution. Bishops, Catholic bishops are getting imprisoned. Evangelical pastors are getting imprisoned. They have Christians in labor camps making iPhones and sneakers. So, I when I shop, and here's something your viewers can do, be very careful about what you're buying because it may have been made by Christian slave labor, particularly in the area of our electronics, our phones and other items like that. So remember, your phone may be put together by a Christian believer in a slave labor camp, sadly. So the situation in not only in the People's Republic of China, I was there in Hong Kong 6 years ago now, when the People's Liberation Army that came from the mainland came to Hong Kong. And I suspect pretty soon, now that the British are no longer in charge of Hong Kong, that they're going to be starting shutting churches down in Hong Kong, much like they do in the People's Republic of China. And that's socialism and that's communism. They're doing the same thing in Cuba, where I go, in Venezuela, in Nicaragua, wherever there is socialism. And it may happen now with this new mayor in New York City, Zoran Mamdani, where my church is located in the South Bronx. Hey, I know he's already going to shut down the pregnancy care centers that are run by pro life Christians. Well, what's he going to do with the church? Wait and see.
Um, is there any possibility, and I guess this is a rhetorical question, I kind of know the answer, but why do we waste so much time thinking that we can negotiate with extreme Islamists?
We we can't. I mean, their number. I hope your viewers know, and I'm sure Perry, you know about what jihad means. Jihad in Arabic, it means struggle, but it really means violence. That's why. Remember when the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia came into Washington, D.C., and the Saudi flag was flying? You know what the Saudi flag has on it? In Arabic writing, it has the Shahada, the Shahada, La ilaha Allah. There is no God but Allah. And underneath the writing is a sword. What does that flag mean? Most people don't know. It means if you do not say the Shahada, Allah is the one true God, then we're gonna come in by the sword. And that's why there are 57 Muslim nations, because they've come in and they haven't loved people, but they've killed people if you don't convert to Islam. They've done it in Saudi. They're doing it in Pakistan. They're doing, it's just amazing. And, now we're seeing jihad taking place in places like Dearborn, Michigan, right here in America, in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and in Paterson, New Jersey, where the Muslims are in charge and they are all about domination. And we have to remember that Islam is a death cult. It's not a religion, it's an ideology. And you must come to faith in Islam and become a Muslim, which means submission, or we're going to kill you, or you're going to be a second class citizen called the dhimmi. So why aren't more Christians involved in bringing Muslims to Christ? And that's why I basically moved on from these interfaith events that we have because, you know, Muslims have in their belly that we must dominate the world with Islam. And if we can't do it by making you a second class citizen, will dominate you by killing you. That's what's going on right now, not only in Nigeria, Perry, it's going on. Vestiges are going on in Tanzania, in Uganda. It's no Christians in Somalia. It went on for years in Northern Africa after the church split. So Islam is all about domination. We see it in real time as we're doing this interview. Christians are being murdered by the jihadists and the Islamists in Nigeria right now. And the sad part is that the southern Nigeria church, 10, 20, 30,000 people down in Lagos and other places, they don't really care what's going on because they say, so we're not getting persecuted, but they don't care about their brothers and sisters and children up north that are dying daily. So think about that. In the half hour we've been on this interview, there has probably been at least 10 Christians murdered with a machete in Nigeria right now.
I'm out of time. I want to spend more time with you. I want to get you back, and I want to ask you one question, so ponder it when we'll get you back. But when you see this kind of brutality, it's got to shake your own faith. Why is God allowing this?
Yeah. Well, it doesn't really shake my faith. I mean, I was a hardcore atheist, 18 years old, and I got saved during the Jesus Revolution out at Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa, in Southern California with Pastor Chuck Smith. So my faith is firm for 55 years. But here's what breaks my heart, Perry, is there's not enough pastors. They'll go to Israel, big tour. They'll go to Greece, or they'll go to Rome, Italy, or they'll go to the 7 churches of the Revelation in Turkey. Well, Nigeria is shorter than going to Israel. Why wouldn't you come to northern Nigeria? Forget the trips to Greece, Italy, Turkey, and Israel. It's sad that pastors will lead delegations to those places. Why aren't you leading a delegation to Nigeria? That's what breaks my heart, and that's what really destroys my faith. Not in Jesus, but in the church at large.
All right, I'm out of time. InfinityBibleChurch.com. Well, what's the other one? The other website?
LiveReckless.info or widowsandorphans.info. Widowsandorphans.info, and you can see everything there. That's a better representation. God bless, Perry.
Thank you.
You and your viewers. Thanks for having me on today.
Thank you. You're a fascinating guy. We'll get you back. Thank you, sir. God bless your friend.
Right on. God bless.